It's the perfect time to learn how to take control of your finances. Joining me now is Dexter Davis with Amegy Bank. Dexter, good morning. Thank you so much for stopping by. I know you are a busy man educating students all across the city. How do you do it?
Well, how do I do it is each story I take on one story at a time. We reach out across the communities, looking at nonprofits, elementary school to high schools, our community redevelopment centers, and asking where are your needs?
Right.
And then we meet you where your needs are at. And we have tons of different conversations, which we'll talk about here in a second.
And those conversations look differently depending on how old that child is. You said you go into elementary schools,
That's correct.
You go into middle schools, you go into high schools.
That is correct. And how we do it is that each community has different needs. A lot of the conversations we have is about budgeting, savings, how to understand credit, but a big one is ways to save. And we figure out where they're at and how to teach them how to save the money that they got, because you could easily become a millionaire by simply saving more than you spend. And that's what we teach.
And you're never too young to start saving, right?
That is correct.
I was actually looking at my finances yesterday, and that was something that I was discussing with my parents. You know, starting that so young. It's really, I don't think you're too young to start that lesson.
You're never too young. And when I work with elementary schools, we sit down and look at strategies to save. And we start with simply, how do you take advantage of cleaning your room, maintaining your bed,
right,
picking up the change in your room, which is why you see this piggy bank right here. And then from there, we move around the topic that fits them the best. And normally it's, how do I save what I have, and then how do I take advantage of what's presented to me? So.
Yeah, starting with an allowance, maybe moving that allowance to
correct.
A full-time job or a part-time job in middle school, high school, whatever it be.
And that's exactly where we meet the parents, is starting with allowance and then teach them how to save at least 20% of that. We teach the parents
20%.
to meet 20%. We go to the 50-30-20 rule immediately. How to spend, you know, say you get $20, how do I spend, okay, 50% of that, and then 30% I look at, okay, what do I want? And I use my wants for there. For me, it's always going to be shoes. Right? Oh yeah, that 30 is wants. And then really the big one is, how do you save 20% of that? Because if you can get in a habit at a young age, saving 20% of what your net income, guess what? You're going to be ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And we want to start that as early as possible, and that's what we're really big into here at Amegy Bank when we're out across the communities teaching children to save, is how do you get to that 20% as fast as you can.
I know you are working right now with middle school students on something pretty cool. What is it?
Okay, we have this new program that we've launched here in Houston. It's called Enriching Tomorrow, where we work with the middle school students. And the reason why we pick middle school children is that we have tons of programs across many different banks and then nonprofit organizations that work with elementary and high school. Then we realized from surveying across the community that we're missing middle school. And that's the pivotal age where we can really influence them and get them to understand. So with our Enriching Tomorrow program is that we bring in first-time business owners that have truly become successful from the community and explain how do they do it. Then we bring in either professional athletes, entertainers from the community, and say, how did I become a professional? How did I become a part of that that profession? And then lastly, we bring in our bankers to really walk them through, how do you save to become a millionaire? Next thing is how to understand credit, because the earlier you understand credit, the better it is for you. And then lastly, how do you become financially responsible? We've launched this program. We've run it a couple times here in Houston. We're now moving it to our Dallas market as well as San Antonio here this fall, to make sure that we can reach as many middle school children that we can, to educate them and inform them that you can be whatever you want.
So obviously it's proving to be successful, and I'm sure those stories, especially when it comes to bringing in those role models, really resonates with these students.
Immediately. So, because what we want to do is make sure we bring in business owners from the same communities of the schools, so that that business owner can now connect with that school and assist them in educating them, and assist them in resourcing them, and assist them in understanding how do you become successful. Because there's several ways to hit this mark. And to be financially successful is understanding what's available to you and how to use those resources that are there.
Okay, so we've educated students. Now it's time to educate parents, which I'm sure that lesson is just as tough, if not more tough.
Yes. So how we end up doing with parents, like at schools, we'll meet with them in the evening, or we'll meet with them online, or hybrid format, where we sit down with them and say, okay, here's the strategies to reach your child. And one of my big stories I like to use is tennis shoes. You know, Houston being one of the biggest secondary shoe market in the country, and then you'll see I have on some tennis shoes here today. I walk in and I start talking shoes, and it's like, why do you want to talk about shoes? I say, this is what your child cares about. And then you can now convince them to save that 50%, or that 20%, to go towards that 30%. And they go, well, I never thought about it that way. So they'll save, get those shoes, and then most of the children will try to resell them. And then this is where we educate parents how that works. Second thing is that we explain how to explain credit to their child. And how do you explain it to them is that credit is essential, how it works, what the credit score goes, and then how do you build that. And that really hits with them because no one really talks to them in that format. But anyway.
You need to speak their language. Okay, so we've talked about educating students, we've talked about educating parents. For people watching at home right now, if they just want to learn more, if they want to learn about finances and have never had the opportunity to do so, or maybe they just want to hit that reset button. I know your work expands, goes beyond just the classroom with students and parents. How can those people get in touch with you or get involved?
Well, you can go to amegybank.com/AmegyCares, and that's where we can get some volunteers to you and your organization. Right now, we're working with community redevelopment centers across the city, with first-time home buyers, as well as small businesses. So go into that link, telling us what you need. We will meet you there, and we'll provide that service to you.
Love it.
All right.
Dex, always a great time chatting with you.
And here's a piggy bank
Oh,
for
thank you, sir. I do appreciate it.
All right, save
I
some
lost
money
mine
here.
years ago, so this will come in handy with that pocket change, right?
There you go. That's
It
exactly
adds
it.
up.
There
It
you
all
go.
adds up.
That's correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again.
Yeah, absolutely.